Welcome to the World Builders Anvil Monday Mini. Hello, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram, and here we're on Monday Mini on Tuesday because of things beyond my control on Monday. Today I want to talk a bit about artifacts. And in episode 256, we actually discussed artifacts. And one of the things I don't think I really went in enough was will. The will of the artifacts and how I kind of see the will working and why even do I have will? And the idea of will is sort of my brain's system for dealing with something so powerful that, it threatens to corrupt normal people who use it. It's just simply too powerful. It will ultimately change their personality. And depending on the will behind it, if it's quote good or quote evil, then it will sort of deviate the character and try and make it act the way the item thinks. And the first thing I talked about a little bit was direct versus indirect will. And the idea there is direct will is the artifact itself has an intelligence, and it might not be something we can completely understand, but it itself possesses the intelligence and tries to manipulate the user into the actions it wants. Indirect will would be like it is the sword of a god, and the god gives the sword to a mortal, and as the mortal uses it, the god uses through the artifact attempts to manipulate the hero or the villain. So that's kind of what I like to think about when I think about direct or indirect will. And then I like to think of will in three different ways. It's intelligence, like there's actual like a character intelligence to it, where the artifact could speak to a person literally, probably through telepathy, but not necessarily. It could literally communicate with them, maybe draw its words out on paper, maybe possess someone to talk to the person. However it does it, it has an actual recognizable intelligence, something more akin to what people recognize as intelligence. Or empathy, where it is essentially just strongly pushing emotions in different scenarios to prompt reactions. So the One Ring really comes to mind here, where it increases your desire to use the ring whenever you're in danger. And that in itself helps connect to Sauron. It's also a great idea of probably an indirect artifact, where it's maybe even Sauron's will affecting the person through the artifact, not necessarily the One Ring itself, but the One Ring might be the exception in the magic items in Middle Earth. And then there's also this idea of, will it go with player control or ally control? So will it directly try and control you, or will it try and latch on to the weak-willed around you? And part of that would be, the idea of the artifact itself. Some might actually use allies to try and control you, to say, hey, your friend is like, no, we should go do this, but it's really the artifact affecting them. And I think that's probably more of a powerful artifact, even more powerful than normal when it starts controlling those around you to try and manipulate you. More than likely, it's going to be direct player manipulations, which are most of the ones that we talked about in the episode. And the one last thing I like to talk about is land as an artifact. And Barovia is what comes to mind here, Ravenloft from the Dungeons and Dragons worlds, where there was an intelligence of the land itself. And I want to say it ended up being described as it was part of the Plane of Dread. In a way, I don't like that. I don't think you necessarily need to explain why the land itself is intelligent. It kind of takes the mystery out of it. But I guess, it's a role-playing game. They're trying to systematize it so people can create their own realms, or they can create other realms off of the same core mechanic ideas that they created Barovia at. But the idea is the land itself had a will, and even the ruler of the land, Count Strahd, aka Dracula, but not really, he himself would be the person in charge of the land, but really the land was more powerful than even him. So he, in some ways, was tied to the land as much as the players were once they got there. And, you can even play with this idea where maybe you think you have an artifact, but maybe it's the land around you that's manipulating you and making you think it's like the sword, and you have to destroy the sword, but then you destroy the sword, and oh, guess what? It wasn't the evil sword, the evil one sword. It was the land, and it has complete control of you, and it now owns you because you went through with this action it was trying to get you to do. And at the end too, what does the character look like, when they lose the Battle of Will? That's something important to think about. And we brushed along it, and maybe that would be another Monday Mini, but think about how the player or the character would look if they lose out control. Do they turn into Gollum? Exactly, from Lord of the Rings. So just a few things to think about here. As always, this episode was brought by my mini free project, How to World Build, at howtoworldbuild.com, cleverly created. So go ahead and if you're interested in world building, or you get stuck because you overcomplicate it, go check this out. I try and simplify the process as much as possible. So I hope you enjoyed this Monday Mini, even though it's Tuesday. And for those of you who get it via audio, it will still be out as scheduled on Friday. I'll see you all then.